Sahana vavatu, sahanau bhunaktu, sahaviryam karavavahe, tejasvinavadhitamastu, ma vidvishavahe. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Today we will, in this session, revise what we have done so far from 1 to 34. And I will ask for participation. So it's not all me just doing everything. So verse 1 to 34, what was the first thing that we talked about, which was mumukshu? Okay, so I'm going to say a nice order here. First step, mumukshu. Mumukshu. Okay, what is a mumukshu? Okay, a seeker. A seeker that has discovered that I cannot find permanent fulfillment at the level of the body and the mind because it is limited. So they have a certain amount of recognition and discrimination to see that much. But who is a seeker, because he is a seeker, who is intelligent enough to recognize that I not only need to pursue, but I need to pursue knowledge. What kind of a seeker is that? We said that seeker because there's a lot of seekers, right, in the world. So there's a lot of seekers in the world, but the one that recognizes I need knowledge. Not all seekers know that. A lot of seekers go for action. So we got the action seekers. Okay, and how many of them are there? That's the majority, right? So we'll put maybe 99%. And then we got knowledge seekers, and they're called adhikari. Adhikari. So it means they have enough discernment through the experience of action to recognize that every action will provide a limited result. Limited. And a limited result plus a limited result plus a limited result equals a limited action plus a limited action plus a limited action equals limited result, because every action itself is limited. Therefore, through the course of time of discovering that much, they come to a natural, organic transition to knowledge. It's not something they say, I've done this and I've done it, maybe I should try knowledge. It's just a small, slow, organic process. And thereby, they are now a mumukshu who will actually stick by in Vedanta. They will listen to the knowledge. And they will listen to what? Pramana. Now, what does Pramana talk about? Pramana is a means of knowledge, okay? And it shows us through this knowledge, right, through knowledge, who you are, what you are. And we said specifically 3 things get shown, which is forms, and Ishvara. What's the relationship between forms and Ishvara? So we said that all forms are a coming together of intelligence. At every level of intervention of a form, from the smallest particle to the largest cosmos, you will recognize there's an intervention of intelligence making that form what it is, and it is participating within laws which are facilitating how those forms will interact together. This is just science. We see this everywhere. We see under the microscope a cell which will replicate 2, 4, 16, just endless. It just keeps going. And then that cell will come to a point and it will start to, if you see in the zygote of the first production of a human human being. You got the cells, just ordinary cells. 2 cells come together. And then they start to shape in such a form that you barely see something that resembles a human body. And yet, when that one entire conglomeration of cells reaches an enough size, a big size, it starts to then change slowly, like the neck starts to push in, and then the nose starts to form. Intelligence. And then the heart starts to pump, and then the brain starts to slowly form. Everything gets shaped, moved in just the right way, in the right shape, to form a definition of an embryo. And then eventually, something that you can recognize and say, this is a human being. When that sperm is looking for the egg, did you see that on YouTube? Sperm looking for the egg. Man and woman, sperm looking for the egg. Does he ever get lost? Oh, where should I go? I'll look for directions, call up someone. It knows. Does it have a brain? Doesn't have a brain. It knows exactly where to go. When it gets attached, the egg knows, let's accept you. I'm going to accept you. And when the egg accepts the sperm, it rejects other sperm because it's already received one. Where is this stored? At every intervention of our biological system, there is intelligence. This is why I love biology, because it's the ultimate testament of intelligence. Really. Therefore, you don't find a brain there. Sperm thinking, where should I go? It's just there. Now, science looks at this and they say, this is just this is just the process of life. But what Vedanta says is that you can't have anything, doing anything, without an intervention of intelligence, because it attaches to the egg. The sperm knows where to find it. Then they come together and they start to build that first zygote. So at every level, you have to account, how does this get defined? Why does it get defined? Because intelligence is right there, all throughout your body. When you cut yourself and there's a cut, what happens? A scab forms. No intervention. We don't think it. It happens on its own. Intelligence. How deep should the roots go of a tree into the ground depends on how hard is the wind, how much is the wind, where is the tree, what kind of environment is it, so that the tree doesn't fall over. It has to know how deep it has to take its roots so it doesn't collapse. It has to address the environment around it. And it has to use its components of the leaves and use that to convert sunlight into, by the process of photosynthesis, develop nutrients for itself, and uses carbon dioxide and mixes that together for energy, sunlight and carbon dioxide. And then it takes the water vapor also from the air. It also takes the water from the ground, and it doesn't compete. It knows exactly how much to take for itself. It's not greedy. 2 trees next to each other, they both work in unison. They don't say, my water, even though maybe some plants do that. Maybe some, but most don't, as far as I know. Did you ever see a Venus flytrap? Zzz. That fly has to land several times, has to move its legs several times inside that Venus flytrap, because the Venus flytrap knows that most flies will only land once, take a little bit of nectar, and fly away. So it has to be sure that it saves energy. If I get about 5 taps, I think 5 or 6 taps, only then it closes, because it knows the fly is there long enough. How does it know? Intelligence. 5 or 6 times. Does it count? I don't know. But the point is, it's 5 or 6 or whatever the number is. Therefore, anything in creation can become a glory, a testament of intelligence. No need to look out there. You know, in Krishna uses, chapter 11 and 12, vibhutis of Ishvara. In ordinary things like the rain, oh, it's raining. That is Ishvara falling. That is answering and feeding our dear plants. How do we look at rain? Oh, it's raining. Put umbrella. That also becomes a testament of intelligence. Where can you not find this intelligence? Just have to look a little bit deeper, have to think. Right now, you and I are breathing the same air that has been circulating here since dinosaur times. We're drinking the same water that is 4.5 billion years old. And what cleans up that water? You and I? What converts the salty water from the oceans into clean drinking water? Process of water cycle. It's already built in. And then when it evaporates and it falls, the water falls onto mountains, and though that water has to find its way 3,000 kilometers plus all the way back to the ocean, and it does that. Where's the question of inert? It finds its way back to the ocean. You and I, can we find our way around here in this Udupi? So water finds its way. And to us, it's just like, oh, but it's just pulled down by gravity. Somehow it finds. But there is an intelligence. Because if it didn't find its way to the ocean, what would happen? Yeah, it would get stored in places. The oceans would dry up. It wouldn't work. Small things like this is a testament of intelligence. And it's been doing this for billions of years. And the oceans clean themselves up. And then we are here now benefiting from this amazing system. So, forms, they're all putting together of this intelligence, including your physical brain, the most complex putting together of all. The instrument is able to ascertain the very thing we're speaking of and relate to what we're saying. So form, putting together. What kind of putting together? An intelligent, we'll say, an intelligent putting together. This is real, right? Yeah. So this is intelligent putting together. Look at this. And now we look at the glory of this and we smell, and it attracts the bees. Did you know that bees, they, quite amazing things, little. They know which flower to pollinate and which flower they pollinated. 3,000 flowers on the field, 3,000. One bee pollinates one flower, and the other bees, they all at the same time now know this flower has been pollinated by the previous bees. We don't have to touch it because energy expenditure. And they all return back to the beehive, and they do a dance. Whatever I don't know what dance they do, maybe hip hop, break dance. And that dance tells to all of the other bees, I think this flower has been pollinated. No need to go again. And they all understand this. And they even find their way back to the beehive from such a vast distance. Next day they go back. Oh, it's pollinated. We've done it yesterday. We don't need to do it again. Could you do this? And they know exactly where to find these flowers from a huge distance from their beehive. It's a huge distance. They know where to fly and how to come back. No directions. So there's a certain amount of intelligence given just to the bees, just to the crows, to the eagle. And we are seeing little bit of that in one species, in another species, a bloodhound, one of the most sensitive dogs to smell. Police force use them. They tried all sorts of things to fool these dogs. They're our friends at the Border Patrol security. They put drugs inside multiple packets, put the packets inside jam, put washing powder inside toothpaste, toothpaste inside some fragrant flowers, put some squirrel pee on there, and then put that inside a bucket of honey, and then sell that. We're selling honey. Bloodhound still penetrates all of that. Intelligence. So we can appreciate these glories all around. It is all intelligent putting together. And then we said Maya is this same intelligence, but it's in potential, before time and space. And Brahman, which is the truth of Maya, forms, and Ishvara. And this Brahman is known to you as I am, all the time, ever present. And how did we show Brahman? How do we start out showing Brahman? We used Drak, Drashya, Viveka. So, Pramana is there. Now, next section. We showed Brahman through Drak, Drashya, Viveka. And how do we do this? Someone remember? What's the basis of it, if you remember? What would you like to say about Drak, Drashya, Viveka? Subject, object. So you start out by what is in front of you, like a pot, and you say this pot, right? It doesn't, we use the cup, we say the features of this, it doesn't pass on to the features of the eye. So the seer remains free of the seen. And then in reference to the eyes, the mind is the seer, and the eyes, or the sight, is the seen. Long distance, short distance, long sight, short sight of the eyes, it doesn't make the mind more clear or less clear. The mind remains the mind. And we also said that the mind itself is nothing but a series of thoughts. Because the thought that you have right now was a thought, was not yours 5 minutes ago. But something was there. Now 5 minutes ago, whatever that thought was not yours 5 minutes before that. Just like from now, 5 minutes in the future, that thought is not mine now. But when 5 minutes comes, I will say, I am this thought. But I can't be this thought because I was free of this thought 5 minutes ago. Therefore, if you apply this to one single thought, do you have to apply it to every thought? Think about this. If the thought 5 minutes from now is not me, because there's something here now, and I am fully conscious and present without that thought, and when that thought comes, I am still present. On top of that, there seems to be another thought. Sure, this we can appreciate. You can now apply this to every single thought. You don't have to do it to every single thought. So this means when we feel or we have these thoughts in us, like I am this, I am that, I am lost, I'm confused. Where was confusion 5 minutes ago? It was not there. Now the thought comes, I am confused. So I can't be confusion, I can't be ignorance, because it wasn't there just a minute ago, but I was there. This is Drak, Drashya, Viveka. Okay. Now, next is, we asked the question, how did forms come? And we said, there's a cause, and this cause in one word, we said is Ishvara, but more specifically, we said this cause is both nimitta karanam, nimitta. What is nimitta karanam? Yeah, so the maker, I want to say maker. And upadana, which is? Karana, which is material cause. Okay, so now this upadana karanam, okay, we said is divided into two, which is parinami and vivarta. Vivarta was Brahman, vivarta, upadana, and parinami. Parinami. So parinami upadana karanam, we use an example of milk and curd, where once the butter, right? So once the milk becomes butter or curd, you can't find the milk. You can only find the effect. That's Ishvara. We can't find Ishvara. Where's Ishvara? I can only see the effects of Ishvara. And Vivarta Upadana Karanam is Brahman. That means it's a material cause. It's the cause of all things, which doesn't undergo any change at all. And the example of this was gold and ornaments. So ornaments can, be plenty of them, but they're all essentially gold. So when they go through, when you melt an ornament, does it do anything to the gold? No, it just changes, from the standpoint of name and form, there's a change. But gold was during the ornament and after it's melted. Okay? So in one name, both of these two causes, where are they? So what are their names? Ishvara. If everything comes from this cause, then can anything in this world be separate from these two causes? No. So if I'm looking for Ishvara, where do I look? Yeah, everywhere. So Ishvara is everywhere. This is the difference between Dvaita and Advaita. So much more relaxing with Advaita. It's like it's all here now. This is why I said to you in that spaceship example, you go with a spaceship, it opens up, you see books, and you see a different world, and you see fairies, and you see all these colors, and it's a beautiful thing. But all of that is also pervaded by nimitta karanam and upadana karanam. That's why Vishal said I would go back. That was a good answer. Because ultimately, there's nothing more better or worse. There's no question of better. There's no question of heaven being better. You see this? Because whatever it is there, it's just different. But it's ultimately only nimitta and upadana karanam. And that very same cause is right here, right now. So this means we are saved a lot of time from this concern of wanting to travel and experience and have all these things in our lives, because ultimately you are ever only in the presence of Ishvara. These two causes. This is Advaita. Now, what does this intelligence manifest? What is manifested by the presence of this intelligence? Huh? Excellent. So we'll call this, we'll put it at the level of Maya, so it's in the potential. And we have the gross body, which is made of 5 elements. We have the subtle body, 5 elements, and we have the causal body, which is, what's your causal body? Define causal body for me.
Potential.
Huh? Sanchita karmas, okay? Good. Samskaras, okay. So therefore, we're going to say unseen past results plus samskaras. Okay, this is sanchita. Sanchita. And also for technical reasons, but also want to know, Anandamaya Kosha. How do you know? Because I'm just making a statement now. How do you tell that Anandamaya Kosha is there in a causal body. Remember that that inquiry when we did Anvaya Vyatireka? How everything was able to be reduced, but what stayed? Yeah, the causal body, because there's going to be a world. You're going to come out of a cause. Okay, you're going to come out tomorrow. So you're going to come out of a cause. So you're temporarily resolved in the cause. But also during deep sleep, there is happiness. Therefore, both of them were one and the same. Wherever there was a causal body, that's where Anandamaya Kosha was also. And what's the difference between 5 fundamental elements and 5 subtle elements?
After Panchikarana, it becomes.
Yeah. Okay, someone else? What's the difference between 5 subtle elements and 5 gross elements?
The subtle ones are unique, one and only one, and after they materialize, they are a mix, a blend.
Good, good. That's more specific. Yeah, proportion changes. So this means they went through this process of mixing, panchikarana, and then they became gross. Now, why do we have this? Why do we need to know this? What's the purpose of knowing about 5 elements? It's a model. That's it. It's just a model because the mind's always going to keep asking, how did the world come? What was before Big Bang? You see, so you have to give the mind something to work with. That is the nature of the mind. Otherwise, you can say X model, this model, that. It doesn't matter. Some model is enough to help the mind see how it all reduces into the final cause. That's what we want. We're not here for kind of, these academia. It's not going to help you. But what will help me is when I get asked, how did the universe come? What was before the universe? What are you going to say? Hey, what was before the universe?
Awareness. The potential.
Potential, yeah. Intelligence. What was before the universe? You can also say 5 elements. And where did 5 elements come from? Intelligence. And what is this intelligence? Can you just define it for me? Knowledge and power. And where is this intelligence? Everywhere. And this intelligence is, what is it? What is it? It's Maya. Okay. What is Maya? Potential of what?
Potential that we manifest. The way I remember is like voltage, and when you switch on the button, current flows.
Okay. And this Maya, and what is this? What is Maya? Can I see it? No. Why can I not see Maya? So then why are you telling me there's Maya if I can't see it? How do I see it? Huh? I see the results. What kind of results do I see of Maya? Huh? All forms. What kind of forms? Can you give me some examples? Three bodies. And what's the truth of this Maya? Is that the final building block of the universe? What's the final building block? What's awareness? Huh? What's awareness? How do I know this awareness?
Because you are.
But I know myself as a body. How do I help me out to get to know this awareness? How do I know this awareness? Mahavakya. How do I know? What is awareness? Refer to Mahavakya.
You are not this body.
No. That's Apyasa. What is awareness? Mahavakya. Remember that verse. It is all-pervading, non-moving, all-pervasive. Okay? What else is awareness?
Limitless.
Huh?
Limitless.
Limitless. What's limitless? What does that mean?
No beginning, no end. Beginningless.
No beginning, no end. What else does limitless mean? Silence. That's also included. Well done. Good. Very happy. Okay. Good job. So, when Maya comes, it produces these 3 bodies. So these 3 bodies become what? There's a word for that. A technical word. Upadis. Super, Vishal. What's upadhi? Superimposition, okay? Over what? Because it implies there's a superimposition. What is this? Over what? Atma. And what's the other name for this Atma? Upahita. Excellent. What does upahita mean?
That which takes on a quality from the body.
As though it is superimposed the qualities of Upadhi.
As though it takes on attributes of something else. And what's upadhi? Define?
That which as though gives the quality to the carrier.
That which as though lends qualities, gives qualities to something else. So if this body is an upadhi, then does that mean that I'm now, is that the problem? That I'm taking my body as the upadhi? Is that the real problem? Oh. What is the problem? That I am actually taking myself as this. Then it's no longer an upadhi. Now it is just a functional unit, a functional thing. Therefore, this Maya produces these three bodies. These three bodies become an upadhi for me, owing to Maya's what kind of power? Vikshepa or Avarana Shakti? And what is Avarana Shakti? Define that for me.
It hides the veiling.
Veiling what?
Veiling of.
Feeling of the original
It
Of who
feels
I am.
all knowledge, all power. It feels almost all knowledge.
What does veiling power do at the level of the macrocosm?
Hides intelligence.
Not at the level of jiva, at the level of macrocosm.
Hides intelligence.
Huh?
Hides intelligence. Hiding of intelligence.
No, Avarana Shakti. What is Avarana Shakti? What's the function of it? In the presence of Avarana Shakti, what are the effects of Avarana Shakti at the level of the world? Duality. Simple. Duality. Differences. What does Avarana Shakti mean? Answer.
power of Maya which hides the original.
No. Just hiding power. What's Vikshepa Shakti mean? Projecting power. Okay. So is Avarana Shakti a problem? Careful. Is Avarana Shakti a problem? No. At the level of what is it not a problem? At the level of the world, it's not a problem. Where does it become a potential problem? Good. So when it operates at the level of the jiva, how does it become a problem?
Start being identified.
With
We said
the ego.
the Avarana Shakti hides the Atma from Atma and
Good.
it takes it as the Upadhi.
Good. So when Avarana Shakti is operating, while it's operating, it's fine. The world is fine. But the moment it operates at the level of the jiva, then it becomes a hiding agent of my true nature. And what do I then become? Three bodies. And then what do I do with these three bodies? A doer, an actor. And when I become a doer and actor, what happens? As I send actions into the world, I accumulate karma. And what is that karma that I accumulate called? Agami karma. And after I die, where does that karma go? Sanchita karma. And a portion of that gets dropped to build another body called prarabdha karma. And here we are again. Good. Therefore, these upadhis, this upadhi, you can call upadhis, we then divided it into 5 further specific functional things. I don't want to call it an upadhi, just functional things. What were they? Anamaya kosha?
Pranamaya, Pranamaya, Manomaya, Vijnanamaya, Anandamaya.
Anamaya refers to gross. Give me examples, 5 examples of gross. Don't just say obvious, just something more specific. Bone marrow. What else? What was this verse? That you sang? I am not the seven constituents. Yeah. So I'm not the bone marrow. I am not the flesh. I am not the mucus. I am not these things that we often don't say. All of this, Anamaya Kosha. Next one, pranamaya kosha. Give me 5 examples. How do I identify? How do I relate to pranamaya kosha?
Digestion,
Tiredness, tiredness,
digestion, procreation, excretion.
Okay, good.
Belongs to prana.
Okay, how is your pranamaya doing right now? How do you know it's doing all right? Because it's in the presence of awareness. So what is it in the presence of whom was it identified to be all right? In the presence of all-pervading self. Next one, manomaya. What is this? Emotions and doubting. Good. And then the next one, vijnanamaya. Give me some examples. Analyzing inquirer. So when the inquirer is thinking, thinking, what is that now? Thinking, analyzing, vijnanamaya. Next one, why do I think? Why do I do things? Why do I decide to enjoy, to be happy? Therefore, I am now identified with Anandamaya Kosha. How do you explain this Anandamaya Kosha? Except just Anandamaya. What is Anandamaya?
When we merge subject and object.
Yeah, merging of subject and object causes me to get in touch with Anandamaya Kosha. And that is something that we all want because it's so pleasing. And when it comes together, what happened when it comes together? When the object and the subject come together, what happens?
No more desires.
No more desires. To whom the desires belong to?
Mind.
To the mind. And now the mind, what happened to the mind when it came closer to the object, when it merged with the object? The mind stilled. And then when it's still, what now? Why is it able to reflect the fullness of I? Because I was always shining as fullness on that mind. And when the mind stills itself, then it's able to reflect the fullness of myself. And that is so pleasing to all of us. Then we want one more try. Therefore, these 5 koshas, we then put our identities into. The moment you recognize these 5 koshas are mithya, are they still upadis? No, they're now what? Functional things, whatever you want to call them. Functional things, functional blessings that we use to participate in this world. How is this now useful in real life? How will you apply these 5 koshas? Where will you use? Give me some examples. How will you use this teaching in real life? This 5 kosha?
If there's seeming suffering on one of these koshas, you can give the place, it's in the kosha.
We take these koshas as blessings to know the real nature of Atma.
Good. And how will this help you to deal with, if it will, do you think this will help you to deal with, cope with some challenges a little bit better?
Yeah, so when I have pain in my knee, I don't get lost in that.
How does pramana work? How does pramana work? There's 2 primary things that pramana does. Shabda pramana. Atyasa and Naiti and Mahavakya. What is the purpose of Naiti? Why do we start? Why does the Shastra start with Naiti? Why does it start negating first? To take you back to the real nature. Why else does it start with what's obvious? The 3 bodies are obvious. Why does it start with what is obvious? Why does it start with that?
Because we are conditioned since many lives that
Simple.
is prosper.
Good. So it has to start with what is very familiar to you and I. Give me a prakriya that you fancied. Name it during this course. One prakriya that you fancied. Anvaya Vyatireka. I love that. Explain.
Anvaya means cannot negate.
Ah,
Vyatireka is non-negatable and negative.
and negatable. Yeah. Absent and not absent. Give me one more prakriya that you fancied during the course. Satyamitya. Oh, this one is so nice. Satyamitya. Any other?
Bhati anubhati.
Bhati anubhati. What shines before and what shines after? What else stuck to you so far in this course? Some specific teaching, some highlight that you want to highlight on the wall? Big one. Something that's stuck.
Snake and rope.
Snake and rope. Ah, that's stuck, huh? Wow. Wave and water. Oh, okay, oh, this is what I had with him. That's that you can thank now Amol for him asking, because that's how I initiated this, the water and wave, by your question.
I like the analogy soap nut powder and knowledge.
Oh, yes.
I just love it. Soap nut powder, it settles into the soap nut.
Soap nut. Oh, okay, okay. Oh, this is nice. Yeah. What did you learn from that? Why do you love it?
Yeah, because the knowledge will settle all the impurities of our mind, and the real nature of the Atma, it shines like clean water.
Ah,
That I love.
yeah.
Even the knowledge seems to-
Even the knowledge sinks. Yeah,
That's the latest stage. Even knowledge also gets settled.
yeah.
The only shining thing is Atma.
Yeah, the knowledge has done its beautiful job. You don't have to repeat that you are that. It is now resolved.
Stay ever in mind.
Yeah, very
Got a
nice.
New perspective on Drik Drishya Viveka.
A new
We used to
perspective.
Consider Drik as the final seer, but in that context, now we got that Drik in this case is the Ahamkara that feels that I am aware.
Yes, and I will extend upon that. It depends on the context. You can also say it is the final. And ultimately, the subject and the object still, there's two things there. So you still have to reconcile them, and therefore use a Satya Mithya relationship to reconcile. So subject, object, wonderful, excellent. We start with subject, object in Vedanta, and then we close that with Satya and Mithya, which will be very much reiterated in the coming verse. That will strengthen that more. What else stuck with you? One more thing, and I'll move on.
I came to know who is the thinker and doubter, which I had stuck.
Ah, thinker and
Thank you
doubter.
for that.
Who's the thinker and the doubter? Okay, excellent. Yeah, wow.
The main thing I can take out is bringing Ishvara into your life.
Bringing Ishvara into your life. Yeah, excellent. From the Gita.
You can relate everything.
Why is that? Why else is that important to bring Ishvara into our lives? What does that do for you? How does that help you to bring Ishvara into your life?
To see everything
To trust.
Huh?
See,
It's the only thing you can really trust, and it's permanently
Yes.
there.
Yeah.
to see
The only,
everything as blessing.
everything is a
Order,
blessing.
There is an order which is operating from beginningless time.
From beginning of
Taking
time.
care of everything, and you are just a tiny part of it.
Yes, that's nice. It puts you in the right
Offloads
place.
pressure.
Huh?
It offloads pressure.
Offloads depression, offloads pressures, offloads sense of isolation. You're not.
We can see everything now in a positive manner.
Yes.
Whatever happens is for good. That is clear now.
Yeah.
There is a saying, everything happens for good. That is clear now.
And one more thing, ownership to trust issue.
Ownership to trusteeship. What does ownership to trusteeship mean? Explain.
That
To-
the instrument is serving the world instead of itself.
Yeah. So you understand that you are given this instrument, and it's a blessing, and therefore recognizing that, I come to see, so I have a certain responsibility for this instrument, and therefore I will use it responsibly from now on. No more alcohol, no more nonsense. You simply just, if you want to do that, that's fine. But there's a certain responsibility. I'm not here to tell you what to do. If you do that stuff, that's your thing.
Yeah, that's why I find it a bit difficult. Like, to me here, I don't think like that. But other people think that Ishvara takes care of everything. But, I see in India, like the cows are holy, but then the car came into the cow, the
Mm.
cow is hurt, the cow is lying on the street, the cow is suffering, and nobody takes care of the cow. And I think it might be because of this idea, like Ishvara takes care of everything.
Okay.
So
Yeah, you see.
I
yeah.
that is a bit like
I understand. It could be part of it. Yeah, we don't know, but I see where you're coming from, where Ishvara will take care of everything. It's the cow's karma, right? And it just steals, sense of responsibility. It just robs it. So we don't do this, because whatever you can do, you can do.
Isn't it in the whole system of Ishvara inbuilt that you take measures, but it's also Ishvara. But that's
Yeah.
why you feel the Dharma.
I think
If you
so.
don't apply this Dharma, you get results. So actually it's all Ishvara, but also doing good actions,
Yeah, yeah,
taking
because
responsibility
That's how
Yeah.
for the things you have to do.
Mm.
Is Ishvara. So then also Ishvara takes care, because it's all one huge system of Dharma.
Yeah, yeah, you do what you can do a little bit.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
And I think our religion helps us a lot, the Hindu religion, because it says do what you do. And that is why, we go into the temples and we confide everything to the priest, because we cannot go into the sanctum sanctorium and do the prayers or the offerings ourselves.
Mm.
So we say, I can only do that much,
Mm.
and then now it belongs to the priest to do his part.
Mm.
And if he doesn't do, or if I do not do what I have to do, the karma account is constantly being replenished, so there is no escape. So suppose I see a cow and I have the possibility of helping the cow, but I just drive through, I might escape for a few days, for a few lives, but it will catch up.
Uh,
So everybody, we all hold on to this karma account,
uh,
and we say nobody escapes finally.
uh.
So maybe circumstances push us to act this way or that way, but all of us have a role to play, but there is somebody up holding an account on what we really do.
Mm.
So one has to, we don't escape. Finally, we all end up paying.
Yeah, and just to make this see, it's true because if you know you can do something, it's inbuilt in all of us. As a child, if I can do something, of course, a child is, very quickly they learn. I don't want to give sweets to my sister, but it's a different story. So when a child, it naturally wants to give, and the human being has the same program because this is the natural Dharma program. So when I find myself in a chance to help, to reach out, because I'm capable, and I don't, you can get away with it for a while. But somehow it catches up as guilt, as shame, as an inner voice confirming that I'm indeed unworthy of helping out. I am not good enough. I am not, special enough. Who am I to help? I make no difference in this world. And so all of this small voice becomes your papam. So in that sense, it becomes a burden, a load onto the personality, which then restricts me from, and it's not just one time, it happens on and on and on. And what happens is I carry this load in my life that I'm not good enough, I'm not the person who can help, I'm not a person who can contribute, and yet everyone's a contributor. So that whole program is now turned off, or volume is turned down. I'm not a contributor, I'm just a consumer, a small person in this world. This knowledge is not for me, next life.
How can shame and guilt become your problem? Like you could be manipulated into shame and guilt. How can shame and guilt become your problem? Because someone else can actually induce that in you. Tell you if you don't do this, then this will happen.
Yeah, easy because if someone's hurt outside there, and I'm the only person that's around, and I see everyone else not doing anything, and then I just look, so no one's helping, therefore I'm just going to do what they do. This is how we are. We look for other people. If they're doing something, then I'll do something. If they're not doing something, I'm not going to do something. So there's this whole herd mentality, but it doesn't exempt me from the laws. The laws don't care what others are doing. The laws are saying if there is a certain opportunity for help and I don't act upon it, that comes as Ishvara's feedback as guilt.
Yeah, I understand in that context, but let's say other context, like you're told by your parents or someone, like if you don't chant this mantra every day for 8 times, then it's not good, or basically that can induce shame in you.
Yeah, that can.
That's I talk about that in that context.
Yeah, so
In the Christian religion, it's big. Like my grandmother, she cursed me with hell every day.
really.
That was her misunderstanding, but it's widespread in Christianity,
Yeah.
that you're born as a sinner forever. That's a prayer. You're a sinner forever.
Yeah, the world's too big for me to reach out, but I can reach out in my local community, in my proximity. And there's a story of two children. You probably heard it from someone or maybe from me, where there was two kids. They were traveling back from some party, and it was the daytime, and they walked near a temple, and one of the kids was a devotee, and the other kid was an atheist because he grew up in that family. And so the kid, who was a devotee, said, "Hey, wait, friend, they were about 7 or whatever, 8 years old. Let me go in the temple and offer my prostrations to the Lord." And the atheist kid, who grew up in that environment, said, "Why do you waste your time with this? Where is God? If you gave so many times, you went to the temple so many times, and your life is just like mine, and I'm an atheist. Where's your rewards?" And the other kid was a little bit discouraged, but he went inside the temple anyway, and he gave his prostrations. Now, as he was coming out of the temple, he, you know how the stairs go down, right? He slightly tripped over, and he fell. And it hurt him not so much, but it still hurt him a little bit. And he tried to, limp and catch up to his friend, who found a golden coin just ahead of the church, of the temple. And he was so ecstatic. He was, I found a golden coin. Now, as this kid who was limping came by, he says, "Hey, sorry, I was late, I tripped over." And he's like, "Oh, look at you. You go to a temple, you pray to the Lord, and you trip over, and now you're limping. That's what your Lord has given you. And me, I'm free. I don't believe in this nonsense, and I find a golden coin. You see, I've been telling you, there's no God. Stop getting into this nonsense." And the other kid, being discouraged, was now almost converted into an atheist himself. But there was a wise man, a sadhu, nearby, who overheard the conversation, and he was perhaps a clairvoyant. He was able to read their lives. It's a story. And he said, "You see, it seems like that initially, that you've got a gold coin and you just tripped over. But owing to your past life, the one who's limping, you spent so many days praying and devoting that your punyam made it so that you did not break your leg. You only tripped. And you, mister, who found the gold coin, your past life was atheism and all this stuff. It's no God. And now you're so happy. Owing to all of that dismissal and converting people into atheists in your past life, you only found a golden coin and not treasure. You could have found treasure, but you didn't." We don't think like this, but this is how it is. You have no idea how these connections work, but they are prevalent in all places.
I also have the experience when I do something bad or I have a nasty thought or anything, it comes back to me immediately. I find myself in the same situation.
Yeah, same. Yeah. In fact, situations don't truly leave you. Unresolved situations don't truly leave you until you have relatively resolved them, until you have worked out your stuff. And this requires courage and patience to work through. Therefore, there's no escaping, because that's how the laws are made. Ishvara keeps on showing you the same situation in different form, the same people who trigger you, until you work something out to the point where they just don't trigger you anymore. You know those faces, like you got ordinary human faces, and one face stands out, but ultimately it's just flesh with eyes and a mouth. It just stands out. Something is being triggered. It's not them, something in you. Because every face is a representation of personality, of life. So that representation of life, that representation of personality, something in me I've not resolved. I've had this situation myself where I saw people 2 years ago and I was like closed down. So strange, like, they make me not want to, as you said, I have nothing to say. I become unintelligent. And I said, nah, I'm not going to allow this to happen. keep working on myself, keep working, keep developing confidence. Om Dum Durgaya Namaha. Om Aim Saraswatyaya Namaha. Keep praying. I see them 2 years later. I'm like, has your face changed? Have you undergone a transformation? Not at all. I changed. Now I don't feel that. I don't feel that intimidation. I can face them like any other person. Inner transformation, outer perception changes.
So another teaching that really hit me last night was, I always thought that the Karma Yoga was after doing your inner work, you go out for Karma Yoga. But you said, no, Karma Yoga starts here. And I do that all the time, but I never named it Karma Yoga. Only contributor is for me in interaction, but not in interaction with this body-mind.
Yeah. So good. So Karma Yoga is every opportunity in life, every challenge in life is your opportunity for growth, for refinement. That is Karma Yoga.
I was still splitting it in like psychology, working out my own stuff,
Mm.
and Karma Yoga.
It's all one, it's all tied in together. We're just now having modern psychology contribute to how we go about refining our minds, which is Karma Yoga, for the sake of coming closer to Ishvara, recognizing our truth.
And now I understand why you can ask for help with praying.
Yes, yes. It is offered to you, use it. Lord is probably bored because no one's praying anymore, like we used to. We're online, looking at entertainment, it's like, Lord, I don't hear any voices. So he hears you. That's how it is. You're probably going to ask, why does he hear you? How do I prove it? Give me some scientific evidence. Well, what is a prayer? Prayer is a action. Every action, no matter how small, has to have a reaction, has to have an effect. So what prayer does is it allows you to affect unknown variables that you're not able to affect any other way. Swami Dayananda used to say, when all your options are exhausted and you got nothing else on you, then how do you turn that helplessness into a sense of, I can do something? Prayer. And that prayer also turns out to be an action, and every action has some reaction, at least at the level of personality. Because when you pray, you're telling your brain, this is important enough for me that I'm willing to take my time and pray. And that conditions your mind to be alert. Kind of like that phenomena when you want to buy a red car and then you start to see red cars everywhere. It primes your mind to start to think, and you unconsciously start to do small things that get you closer to what you're praying. Therefore, this is the pramana. It negates atyasa, and then it brings in mahavakya and lets you know who you are directly, and the knowledge takes place. And in verse 34, we stated that big verse, Atma is attribute free, Atma is all-pervading, Atma doesn't move, and this will continue tomorrow. Purnamadav Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnam Eva Avashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti.